for 2026, y'all. This is how I am rebuilding, rebranding, and getting everything in the kit and caboodle back together for a better year. Better me, not new, nothing. Better, faster, more efficient, more focused, less overwhelm, less chaos, less anxiety, less stress. This was a huge transformative year for myself as I really honed in to what I needed to push myself forward in my career as an entrepreneur. That word has always made me feel kind of embarrassed and a little sick because I'm going, I don't really want to be an entrepreneur. Like going from thing to thing and business ideas that fail and large risk and capital raising and all those things. Like I never really woke up one day and was like, I want to do that. That sounds fantastic. It sounds like a fucking nightmare, to be honest with you. And in some cases it low key is, but at the end of the day, you, as you age, will bear down on who you are, accept who you are in your zone of brilliance, and also that will line up with patterns in your life. And that was a pattern that I always had in my life where I would get a great job and I'd be determined to move up the ladder and something or someone would be in my way. Whether it was a ceiling on income, which I grew to learn, I could never be motivated properly in a situation where I had a income ceiling. Whether it was a middle manager that didn't know how to lead, didn't know how to manage, and was threatened by my ambition, or if it was a higher level executive wherever I was working that I didn't feel had strong vision, didn't feel had a firm grip on culture, didn't feel that they cared about the health and well-being and the futures and ambitions of their staff, but really all they cared about was making a legacy for themselves. So I figured out pretty quickly I was going to have to do my own thing or some sort of iteration of that. And it was really hard for me to learn my path. I actually spent the last 3 years absolutely flipping my life on its head, starting over. Haven't been this broke since I was in college. I'm a mother of 3 young kids, and that was incredibly challenging. Not only was it hard for my ego, it was hard for my bank account. And I have been in survival mode for the last few years, trying desperately to climb my way out into a financial realm of stability and opportunity. And I have done that by working myself into the ground. So this year, I knew I was going to have to buy back a lot of my income through business acquisitions. And I did. I bought 2 businesses this year, stabilized both of them. It was incredibly challenging. Different things I could never have expected, different issues with funding and capital raising and SBA refinances, different issues with labor and staff and cultural needs. The same cultural things that I'm, talking ish about were the things that I really had to focus on immediately, or I was going to lose really good people when I bought these businesses. I also dove full bore into being a commercial broker because I believe passionately in verticals and I like to do more than one thing, and I do not like income caps. I have been working towards commercial real estate acquisition for a couple years, but I'm risk averse. And the way that I work towards and combat my risk is to become an expert at that thing. And I've been able to do that in my work as a commercial broker. And this year was a really heavy duty year for me as a commercial broker on a new team with much higher expectations and a really heavy workload. So I was doing that while transitioning and purchasing businesses. And by September, I had not reached burnout, but I was living a really unhealthy life. I was sleeping with my laptop. I was waking up in the dark at 5 a.m., just sitting up and opening my laptop and working for multiple hours. I was really short with my partner and with my children because I was so overworked and overtaxed, and everyone needed everything from me at the same time. And all of this really was for a life that I wanted to build that afforded my family options rather than wealth. So I really am determined to show my children that you have options in this world, and it's really on you to not only cultivate them, but to say yes, to learn how to say yes, to learn how to fail forward, to learn how to move forward without losing things that you've built for your whole life. And that's a lot of why I've been doing what I'm doing. Now, towards the end of the year, I buckled in, hired an executive coach, which I needed. I needed that guidance. I also hired a therapist because I was spinning out emotionally and incredibly anxious, and I couldn't separate my strengths from my ambitions. And I couldn't dial it back enough to feel that I wasn't going to risk it all again and go back to a place of financial instability and honestly put my family through that again. Putting the right people on my team, making that investment. I hired an incredible virtual assistant who's been changing the way that I work and what I work on. I not only read Buy Back Your Time, but I committed myself to the philosophy that Dan Martell, preaches about 80% good is good enough as long as you're not doing it. And I've seen incredible progress, development, personal growth, and a focus on leadership and culture that I didn't have the mental capacity to carry in the past. I'm going into 2026 really niching down, really focusing on what I want to accomplish with the end goal always in mind. When I do consulting calls with folks, they kind of word vomit everywhere. I want this and I want that and I want all these things, and I can relate to that. I am that, right? But the thing that helps me is I go, tomorrow, if you were to wake up after you obtained all of these things and businesses and wealth, what are you doing? Where are you? Where are you in the world? What kind of a house are you in? Apartment, condo, camping? Are you in the US? Are you in a different country? What kind of food do you eat? What do you do early first thing in the morning? What do you do mid-morning? What do you do afternoon? What do you do in the evenings? Who are you spending that time with? What are the goals at that point in your life? Because what I'm really trying to do is help them reverse engineer their way through the shit, through the chaos, through the thunderstorm, through the hurricane. If you are in this place right now as an entrepreneur, you are at the eye of the storm and you cannot get through unless you slow down the wind, let the tornado collapse, let the debris settle, work your way into different lanes in your life. Maybe there's 20. Dial it back, sister. It ain't gonna work at 20. You got to really focus on how many hours do you have a day? What are the top most critical income producing things you need to do to stabilize your day-to-day life? What are the investments that you can work towards? And what is it? How do you want to feel at the end of the day? Because I did all of this already, guys. And by the end of the day in October, my eyes hurt, my skull hurt, my brain hurt, my body hurt. I didn't want to talk to the people I loved. I didn't want to be around the people I loved. I don't want to be around anyone. I wanted to shrivel up and just not be. That is not why you're doing this. It's not why. So clutch your frickin' pearls onto the idea of what life is going to look like once you get through the eye of the hurricane and reverse engineer your way to clearing up that debris into very specific focused lanes. Break it down by day, by hour. How many hours are you spending on this? And what income are you expecting to come out of it? How many hours are you spending on this? And then you're going to dial it back even further. You're going to go, okay, well, if I spend 5 hours a week on trying to acquire a business, how many cold calls is that to brokers or directly to sellers? How many warm leads or conversations? How many deals am I structuring? How many LOIs am I putting out? You are coming up with the formula. 100 calls leads to 10 warm calls and appointments, which leads to 6 LOIs, which leads to 3 negotiations, which leads to 2 offers, which leads to 1 acquisition. If you cannot commit to that kind of focus in your life and you are an entrepreneur, feeling and living like I am telling you in the eye of the hurricane, you're always going to be in that eye. You're never going to push through. You're never going to build that wealth. And you're never going to get to where you want to go. I implore you, take the time to lay it out, to set up those equations for yourself, to clear the debris, and set yourself on that path. Riches are in the niches. Don't forget that. For more educational content and a little bit of woo-woo, rah-rah, hit subscribe.